This time, we're getting the cowl installed. We've got it mostly prepped up. We got a little bit more prep work to do. We're going to walk you through every piece that we had to do to get this particular cowl fit this car. There's a lot to get to, so let's get started, shall we? We got everything taken off of the new cowl to go in, and give you a quick walk around. We got the lip here off on the windshield side, and kick panels, and the lip along the firewall. Now you notice that there's a lot of those little weld pieces still there. You know why? Well, quite frankly, I got fed up with the spot weld cutter. Kept breaking teeth off, and well, I ran out of tips. So used my air chisel and just carefully popped them all off one at a time. Now, like I mentioned in one of the other videos, you can do this, and you're going to have to do a little hammer and dolly work, because at times things get a little ugly. But we'll do the hammer and dolly work, we'll straighten it all out, and we'll get a test fit pretty soon. We went ahead and got the rest of that rotted lower cowl piece out of the car. We got all of our surfaces prepped, ready to go. Everything's ground smooth. We had some issues with the firewall lip and a couple of the kick panels, but we went ahead with the hammer and dolly, straightened these all out. These are ready to go. Now, we did have a couple tear outs. We got one right there. We got to weld up, flatten that all out first. And we got another one right up here, but we should flatten it all out good. I'll give this a tack weld, grind it down smooth so we don't have all this blowing out. A couple quick things to note. To take all these old pieces out, I did use my air chisel with a different kind of bit. Let me show you what we got here. This is a sheet metal cutting bit. You can see that really good there. That makes some pretty quick work of cutting the sheet metal out. Now, you could use an angle grind with a lot of cutting discs. It's going to take a long time. But this goes fast, and you don't use a lot of materials. Now, another thing to note when we're putting this thing together, you probably noticed there's a hole here. There's one there too, and there's one over on the other side. And they actually correspond to the cowl pieces. Remember I was telling you in a previous video about those Cleco pins? This is what they use to align the cowl pieces under the firewall so they can get them lined up properly, so you can get that back welded into place. So we'll use those two as lineup marks, and we'll get this thing welded down. Now, a couple of you folks have probably seen a couple of these pictures of the inside cowl already, and you're thinking, something's missing. Something's not quite right here. And you're right. I mean, you can see the holes for the wiper pivots. They're both right here and here, right? But where does the motor mount to? Well, mounts to that. That's from the original lower cowl. You can see how it's all a little hacked up there. So we're going to have to take a little time. Let's see. Cut it off the old piece, align it, weld it to the new piece. Now, I've already taken the measurements before I even took any of this parts out, so I know exactly where this has got to go. And we'll just cut this right off this piece here. Same thing here with this wide lip. And we'll get it tacked down, welded in place, and we're ready to go. I've gone ahead and cut the old sheet metal off the wiper motor bracket. Got the holes all set to go, gave everything a coat of weld-through primer, and as you can see, to help locate it, yeah, I made my mark here. You see the Sharpie mark right back in there with my measurement I took before I took it all apart. But I also bolted up everything in place to make sure that it really is in the right spot. So now I'll give that a weld all the way through, all those holes, and we can continue with test fitting. Alright. Well, while I had the MIG out, putting the bracket for the wiper motor back on, I decided to fix some of the tear outs I had. When I was using the air chisel to get the lip off of there, and you see there's one there, and another one there. I'm going to weld all this up a little bit, grind it flat. I got a little more weld to do on that one. That one about as ugly as that one was. I got a couple more that I've already done, and finish up those last ones. We'll be all set to do some more test fitting. Alright, we got the cowl is pretty much all test fit. to go into the car now, and I've gone ahead and marked with a Sharpie where I want to start drilling the holes through. Now remember, we didn't use the spot weld cutter, we used the air chisel. So we're going to drill some holes, kind of like where I marked them, and probably do a 1/4 inch, a little bigger than that. That way we have something to drill into, or rather weld through, when we get to the the firewall lip and the windshield lip and the kick panel lip. But before I get to doing that, you're probably asking, why the hell has he got this thing in a big old cardboard tub? Well, we want to protect the inside of this cowl from rotting out again in the future. So what I'm going to do is, I got me some 415, and I'm just going to kind of dump it in here, swish it around, let it drip out the side drain holes all the way back, and let it coat everything as good as possible. Flip it upside down, do the top side of the underneath, and we'll get this thing all protected. Hopefully, protect against future rusting. This car is going to be living in a garage most of the time, but there'll still be stuff from driving it. They'll get into the vents, tuck itself down there, and we don't want it to get stuck and start rotting out. So we're going to protect it from the inside out. A little bit of this stuff. Oh, and gloves. If you've never used this stuff before, this stuff sticks to everything, and everything it sticks to for a long, long time. So wear gloves when you're using this stuff here. All right. Yeah, we're about done doing this. Take a look. It is a mess because it's running everywhere. I mean, we're gonna have to grind all that stuff off on the outside, especially where we got a weld, and on the other side too, because it ran out every hole. It made a mess. But you know what? The inside is coated upside down, right side up, and it's not going to rust anymore. Pretty well protected. You even got it to run through the gaps where the panels come together. There's a couple spots where it did just run through all the way around. So we're pretty confident that we're protected. And any rust that may have been starting between the panels. Well, we've gotten to the point where we've got the pour 15 on the inside of the cowl. We went ahead and drilled the holes all the way around the perimeter that we wanted to get done. Took the angle grinder, ground down all the flanges again. Number one, to get all the remnants of the drill bit holes, drilling the holes out, you get a little spin out sometimes, get that off, and to get any paint, debris, pour 15 off of the painted surfaces, off all the surfaces that need to get welded. That way, when we put it all on, we're good to go. Giving it 2 coats of the weld through primer, and we're about ready to do the final fit before we start doing some tack welding. Now, one other thing you want to make sure you do when you get this lined up is you got your parking brake bracket. Now you got a hole there that goes through the corresponding hole on the firewall bracket. That's for the pin. So we're going to put that in too, line it up, line up all of our edges, all of our holes, get it clamped down, and we'll be ready to start tack welding this thing back together. Cowl is now in place for the last time. Now, because of the limitations of the amount of clamps I have, I'm actually going to start a methodical process. I'm going to start across the top, make sure I get that top lip welded in all the way across on the windshield lip. Then I'm going to come down each side, each of the kick panels, and do those. And then I'm going to start in on the fender, the firewall lip. Why am I doing it that way? Well, the windshield lip is pretty straight and it hasn't moved a bit. Okay? Neither have the kick panels. However, the firewall pushes in at the top here. So this will give me everything from the top down, and then I'll be able to pull the firewall out and weld it in place. So we got our aligning holes. That'll make it a lot easier. Now we also have on the inside, like I said, put that pin in. So that's lined up. We know that's good. And then we have this one other bracket right around here. Goes up there and welds up to the steering wheel support. We'll weld that through too. When we're done, I'm going to come up on the inside here of the fender, the kick panel right up here. We're going to weld right across here and a couple of tacks down here. There are spot welds up in there that we're not going to be able to weld through too, but we'll be able to take care of it from the inside. And when we're done, well, it gets a whole new coat of seam sealer. Lots and lots of seam sealer. So once we get those pieces done, then we'll also clean up these and get them tack welded back in place. And pretty much this part of the job is done. Well, we've gone ahead and done some plug welding all the way across the windshield, like every other one or so. Same thing going across the firewall side, and we've done on the kick panel and the upper hinge bracket brace there. And we've gone and started grinding everything down smooth. You can see where the original spot welds were. You can't see very well where I plug welded. And that's kind of what you want to be able to do, is do your welds. That one has to be done yet. Grind them all down so they're nice and smooth, so that they're almost virtually disappear. Now we don't want any holes going through here left over. You don't want to tack them again, grind them back down, check everything when you're done. But you're going to be putting a lot of weather strip adhesive on here, and then your gas is going to go on here. So it's going to seal this up pretty good. Just word of caution, when you are grinding everything, again, watch your edges. Right down here, I ended up going through and had to tack weld across here, seam it up again, and grind it all back down. So that's all set. Coming down here, made sure we got these holes all done as well. And that is just an old spot weld. That's not a hole there. And you know, some of that poor 15 kind of puddled up in that spot. And then we came across the lip, and I've done a few of them going this way as well. You know, that one I got to finish up, and there's a few more across here I got to continue doing, and there's still some holes here that I have yet to weld, because this is a time-consuming process. You got to weld, grind, check, and re-weld. Now I haven't gone through. Let me see if I can get a flashlight. Gone underneath here. And tacked it up in there, all the way down. Now I'm not going to go across the seam at the firewall because it's going to get welded on the lip on the outside. And all of this is going to get seam sealer to keep the fumes and moisture all out. And the other thing we did was over here, and get down through here without making you guys seasick. It's not easy crawling in here with a flashlight and holding the camera. Alright, we did that one tab brace where it goes to the steering column. And then back there, that's where our park and brake bracket is attached to the firewall, and then it's also attached to the lower side of the cowl, and we just welded it up. Now it looks pretty damn ugly because, I'll be honest with you, it's not easy getting in there with the welding helmet on and to see what you're doing. But I'll get in there with the angle grinder and dress those welds up so at least they look a little bit better, but they are solid and we're good to go. Well, there you have it. From removal to replacement of a complete cowl section, that's what I've done to repair Project Barracuda. Now, dressing the welds up, well, there's the usual suspects you're going to want to use if you don't have them already. Got yourself a angle grinder, air-powered, little discs. These are great for getting into tight spots. Majority of your work is going to be done with one of these 4.5-inch angle grinder. Now I'm using these flapper discs. You can see those. You can also use the grinding stones as well. I like these. They work a little bit better. They run a little cooler, so you can grind a little bit longer. The stones, you have to be careful, otherwise the molten metal, as you're grinding it, will gum up the stone and pretty much ruin it, and you're done. You have to buy another one. Now, I take things to a whole new level of OCD when it comes to dressing some of these welds. Yeah, I went ahead and pulled out my Dremel, and to get in some of those tight radiuses around the corners of the windshield, that's what I used. Works great. So, to get them all dressed up nice, you got tools available to you, use them up. Well, I hope you liked this particular video, and stay tuned for the next video. Thanks for watching.